Hello everyone, this is POW coming at you with another update. In this update, we're going to talk about the upcoming extreme pattern with heavy snow, very high winds, severe weather, and flooded rains. So before I do get started, if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. And I do ask you to share this video with your friends and family on social media. All right, so let's get started. Let's first start off with the temperature anomalies for February. And you can see this has been a very active month, especially for the midsection of the country where they've had those extreme below normal anomalies. And that's just probably going to be hard to make up because we only have several more days left of February, and that will actually kind of skew the numbers for the entire winter, because meteorologically winter ends in a couple days on February 28th. But you can see much of the cold has been in the central part of the U.S. The only warm spots has been Florida, up in Maine, and parts of the desert Southwest, but even some chillier spots in the Pacific Northwest, they've been inundated with a lot of snow. And check out the snow that's happened so far in February. This is incredible. This would be almost a good year in some years for the entire season, let alone in February. So, I mean, look at all the way down into Texas, down into portions of the southeast, and especially up in the northeast. I mean, look at the chart here. Some of these in the lighter blues, you're talking 40 inches of snowfall this year. I mean, this month alone. And here's Michigan, there's Wisconsin. So yeah, I mean, a dry spot has been in the central part of the U.S. where it's been just so cold. And Arctic air is dry air, so they really didn't see much snow so far. But the Pacific Northwest, man, it's been inundated with some very heavy snow. And they almost got some of they have the highest snowfall totals of the entire month so far. And I do think that actually continues because we still have winter storm warnings continuing for the Pacific Northwest into Washington and Oregon and Idaho, where they're just been pounded with that atmospheric river of moisture. Once that comes over the coast, taps into that some of the colder air, especially in the higher elevations, man, they've got blinding snow from 1 to 2 inch snowfall rates up in that region. And that is traversing across down into Utah, getting into Montana and portions of Wyoming. And that will continue throughout the day later on today, because this is Friday, February 26th, when I'm making this video. They had some rain overnight in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That is extending into lifting off to the northeast this afternoon. That's going to be setting the stage for more heavier rains in Louisiana and Arkansas and Mississippi and Alabama, getting into Tennessee and Kentucky. And that'll be more snow for this region where they have the winter storm warnings up here in the Pacific Northwest. So basically, you know, the probability of it hailing on February 26 around these spots is fairly good. I mean, it's on average. They actually had some hail last night in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, parts north of the Metroplex and along the Red River. Most of it was around 1 inch, but there were several stones around 2 inch in diameter, so that definitely caused some damage up in that part of the country. And that's typically where you would see hail this time of year, even though it is February. And even in tornadoes is also a greater risk starting this time of year, as we're kind of in that transition period where we go from, you know, starting to get those warmer southwest winds, and we still have cold shots coming from the north every once in a while. And that typically sets the stage for severe weather. And unfortunately, that's what we're going to be up against over the next couple days as this system's come across. And that's really going to set the extreme kind of pattern that we're going to be in over the next 4 or 5 days, because we have very heavy snow coming off the Pacific Northwest. We've got a jet stream coming off the southwest, so that's going to be causing the lift, be causing a lot of rain into Texas and portions of the southeast, and that will extend even into Saturday. So that system that came across this morning, that will be over the northeast, because these things are racing like 60 miles an hour with this very active jet stream lifting off. And there's still some colder air aloft to tap into, where you're going to have some transition to some snow up here in the higher elevations of the Northeast by the time Saturday morning comes. But yeah, you can definitely see the temperatures and where this kind of unfolds. There's some of the warmer temperatures well down to the south. That's where some of your higher dew points lie. We've got the Arctic air bottled up in Canada, and that might sneak in by the time the first, second, and third comes around into extreme portions of the Northeast. And then we have that very active Pacific Northwest pattern that continues to dumping some heavier rains, heavier snows into the portions of the Northwest. So as we extend into the Saturday afternoon, yeah, you can definitely see as this kind of reloads, if you will, this warm front that sunk down to the south is actually backing up into portions of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. That will cause the overrunning conditions again, and that will cause the lift that's needed to produce more showers and thunderstorms for this area. So the same areas that got hit with a lot of the snowfall actually is going to be hit with some very heavy rain. And unfortunately, severe weather is also an aspect of that too, especially hail, as we do have some warmer temperatures aloft. And that's going to create those some of those hailstones that are going to fall in this region. But yeah, you can definitely see more heavier snows in the Pacific Northwest. As this continues into Sunday, we just kind of, again, repeat the same pattern again, where that warm front continues to lift off portions of the south, and we have a cold front that's pressing, and right along that boundary zone, that's where we're going to be seeing those elevated rains, and some heavier rains, if that, and some of these could train over the same areas, and that's why we could have some flooding potential definitely by Sunday as we get into Arkansas, going into portions of western Tennessee, western Kentucky. This area is going to be under the gun over the next several days with some very heavy rain, if not some severe weather, especially as we get into Sunday night. That's where we could have a little bit more of a damaging wind threat, even some low-level shear that could be taking place. A hail threat's going to be coming back in the picture, but you can definitely see the boundary here where that demarcation lies is. It's basically a soup kitchen down here by the south and southeast, where you're going to have some very warm dew points. And up to the north, you have the drier air and much less dew points. You can definitely see the boundary line here where this really kind of unfolds. I mean, where you're going to have the 60s and almost 70-degree dew points. That is your culprit of, heavier rains, severe weather. And if you're north of that boundary, you're good. I mean, because you're not going to be into the soup. You're going to be in the much drier air. It's definitely hard to create thunderstorms in a drier atmosphere, that's for sure. But as we continue the day into Monday, that will just basically sink south because that cold front will come through. So now the threat pushes a little bit further south and goes into southern portions of Texas, say like in Houston, down into Louisiana, southern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, get into Georgia, getting into the Carolinas, North Carolina by then. And then as some colder air from Canada, the last couple of days, now that's going to be kind of moving across into southeastern parts of Canada and definitely setting the stage as this lifts up some very heavier snows up in Canada and that part of the country. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And that will just continue into Tuesday as this system pushes across. You can actually see where the cold front, the colder temperatures are going to be kind of setting up with this blue sector here. All this is going to be your colder air, and these warmer, orange boundary lines, that's going to be your warmer air as this continues to lift up by Tuesday morning, March the 2nd. And as we continue, look, you can see the temperatures. I mean, you can definitely see what's happening here as that cold front moves through. That's where the blue line was. I mean, look, all these areas on your feels like temperature is going to be pretty low. I mean, you're talking anywhere. These are all below zero temperatures. Feels like temperatures coming up for parts of the Ohio Valley, getting into the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast by the time Tuesday morning rolls around. So definitely be on the lookout for that and bundle up, because that could cause some frostbite and some short amount of times up there with some very cold air. But then even by Thursday, I mean, the active pattern continues, and we could be setting the stage for possibly another snowstorm into Colorado, and especially in the high elevations, and that will try to sneak back into Denver by then. And then, yes, more rain for the deep south. So that definitely, that trend will just continue. And look at the snows over the next 4, 5, 6 days. This is through the 4th, March 4th. You can definitely see where the heavier snows lie, where they have those winter storm warnings right now. They've had much of the higher snows for February. That's going to end February, and that will continue into March as some of those heavier snows, up to a foot at times, get into portions of Nevada and Utah, especially into Colorado. And as you get some of the higher elevations in Idaho, you're talking 2 feet up in that areas. And then as you get into the extreme portions where they have that colder air to tap into, for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, yeah, I mean, you can definitely see some of the higher amounts, anywhere from 15 to 20 inches in southeastern parts of Canada. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And then that'll sneak into a little bit of the Northeast, and definitely in some of the higher elevations in upstate New York and Vermont, New Hampshire, getting into Maine through the 4th. And you can definitely see well to the south where they've got that warmer air to tap into. That's where you're going to see some of those flooding rains and that severe weather setup over the next 4, 5, 6 days. So you can definitely see by the graph here, yeah, anywhere from 2 to 4, if not 4 to 6, and isolated amounts of 8 inches is not out of the question along this boundary of portions of the southeast as over the next 5 to 6 days. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.